This is FBG.Live. From touchdowns and concerts to weddings and Christmas parades. Live video production right here in Fredericksburg, Texas. Live, local, here for you. FBG.Live, capturing your moment for generations to enjoy.
didn't think to. I don't see anybody from that group.
Everyone, we're going to start with an invocation this morning. Brian Wiggins.
Let's pray. God, as we begin this day, we just want to begin it with thanks. We thank you that you're a God of revelation and that you choose freely to make yourself known. We also give thanks because we do have the opportunity to know you. Even more than that, we have the opportunity to enter into your presence, call on your name, ask for your help, and you're always eager to give it. I just pray that your will would be done, but as we come and gather today and ask that you would shepherd our lives and our decisions, our thoughts and our actions, we just ask that you would do it in your goodness and your grace. Do reveal your will for our lives together as a people and give us the strength and the ability to do it. I ask also that you would just be with each and every one and with the presence of your Holy Spirit, and you'd fill our hearts with a sense of love and justice, and the way we go through our day would be a way that honors you. Amen.
Amen.
welcome everyone. It's 9:08 a.m. on October 28th, 2025. This is a regular meeting of the Gillespie County Commissioners Court. We're going to call the meeting to order. All members of the court are present this morning. We're going to move to item number 3, which is a proclamation for Gillespie County 4-H Week. Want to present anything?
Sure. So Gillespie County 4-H Week is an opportunity that we take in Gillespie County to celebrate 4-H and all that our young people do and all the support that the community gives us. And so as y'all leave today, you'll see our first 4-H Week hay bale at the corner of the Holy Ghost Center. And the kiddos are decorating hay bales all around town to promote 4-H and share the unique experiences 4-H gives them. So we appreciate the commissioners declaring this week, November 9th through the 15th, Gillespie County 4-H Week, as a time for us to give back to our community and celebrate 4-H and all that it does for our kiddos.
Thank you. We're signing the resolution for the proclamation right now, but the Gillespie County Commissioners Court is going to designate November 9th through November 15th, 2025 as Gillespie County 4-H Week, and we commend the 4-H Youth Development Program and the many men and women who have made that program a success. You want to take a proclamation?
I will. I would love to.
It was great. I mean, along with that, I mean, we appreciate all that you do and your team out at AgriLife, what y'all do for the kids and keeping them involved, keeping them busy and taking them to all these great events.
Thank you. And, if the community doesn't know, the Commissioners Court and y'all are a huge part of that success, and we appreciate all of y'all's support always. Thank y'all. I will. Yes, I will. Thank you so much.
All right, before we move to item number 4, are there any new hires or promotions that we need to take action on now? Anyone, any department heads or electeds have a new hire that you want to take action on now? Sorry. We can wait. Okay, all right, thank you. And we will move to item number 4, which is receive public comments regarding the Rogers Draw Energy Storage Project and the Marshall Springs Solar and Battery Energy Storage Project. We have individuals have signed up for this item as well as the next 2 items. And other ones. When I call your name, please go up to the podium. It's got a microphone so everyone can hear your comments. And anything else from the commissioner before we begin? Public comments? Our general rule of decorum is for 3 minutes for comments. If there is a need for more discussion, we can address that at the time. Just do your best to try to keep your comments concise, please. Okay, you're first. It's all right. Not hurry.
Okay, guys. Everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
So, I appreciate you guys having us this morning. And I wanted to say right quick, we're going to ask some questions today. Obviously, a lot has happened in the last few weeks, and a lot of citizens have just recently become aware of some of the things that are happening around these projects. Thank you for responding, and as far as the action committee. But we do have some sincere, and I want you guys to know that this is not coming from a place of aggression or anger in any way. But we have had a lot of questions that have arisen from a lot of our citizens here. And so if you guys would allow us, we'd like to ask a few questions about these projects and kind of how they came to be and the Judge Jones, in the last commissioners meeting, you stated that the commission continues to stand against these facilities, and thank you for that. But you guys specifically added a term, and it was, I quote, "as presented." And based upon the comments here in our community commentary, it's our understanding that the vast majority of our citizens do not view any version of these best facilities to be acceptable in any form. And so could you guys please explain to us, from your perspective, what the difference in these facilities are as presented, and what version of them do you guys find acceptable?
Do you have any other comment beyond that?
Yes, sir, I've got four questions.
That's, do you give us any questions and then we will answer?
Second question, Commissioner Olfers, sir. The Marshall Spring project specifically is close to us, and that is in your precinct, in precinct 1. Is that correct, sir? Could you please explain to us when exactly and by whom specifically you were personally made aware of the project?
You want me to answer that now?
That's up to you.
I mean, that's fine. Melissa, where are you at? So we were made aware of it. We had a meeting with the developer, Melissa, myself, and the fire marshal, county fire marshal. Had a meeting. That's when I was first made aware of. I don't have that date to me. Do you?
It was early August. I don't have the exact date that they submitted that application, but I can find that out.
So that was August of this year that you guys found out about this personally?
Correct.
So when the lease was originally signed, the county and the commissioner's court was unaware of this project in any way?
Correct. I was not made aware of the lease. That went to ERCOT, is what I understand. And we had, I mean, to my knowledge, I had nothing to do with the lease between this company and the landowners.
Understood.
So that's the first time I was made aware of that, and I apologize that I do not have that in front of me. I'll try to find that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. And I'll try and move very quickly through these guys. And then Commissioner Weinheimer, I've had a couple people have spoken to us, and they have told us that you may have some personal interest in the properties around the fluid property of this project. Is that true? Do you or your family have property directly adjacent to this property? That was the question that was presented to us.
Yeah, I have 3 sister-in-laws that have properties that are adjacent to the food property. And my wife and another sister-in-law have property within about a mile.
Okay, thank you, sir. And those same citizens that shared that information with us said that they had spoken to you, and they said that they had a conversation, and you have stated, quote, that the battery facilities are a quote-unquote done deal, and that there is nothing you can do about it. Could you help us understand, is that true? And what that means, that these are already a done deal, if that's true?
Yeah, I'm not sure where you got that comment from.
Okay, thank you, sir. Guys, on February 2nd of 2025, the commission passed a resolution originally authored by Mr. David Nash, and thank you, Minister Nash, for all of your efforts, saying that you absolutely stand against these best facilities, and for that we were very grateful to you, gentlemen. You said that you were against these facilities in our community due to the massive risk they impose upon our citizens. And can you guys please explain to us what substantial action has been taken by this commission since that date to prevent these projects from moving forward?
I can answer that question. Do you have any other questions?
I've got one last one after that, that's it. And my last question, and this has been asked by at least probably 20 different citizens of us, and like I said, this is not meant to be aggressive in any way. It's a sincere question by the citizens of the county because we're concerned with what's happening and how it's happening. Have either of these project companies, Ampere or Peregrine, or their associates, provided resources, funds, or equipment to any county personnel, officials, commissioners, fire departments, fire officials, law enforcement, or affiliated law enforcement agencies of this county? And if so, can you please explain to us exactly what was provided, when, and what was promised?
All right, that's all?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I guess the last question first, I mean, I can't answer for everyone, I can answer for myself, which is that I received no benefit or assets or anything from me or my office from Peregrine. I'm not aware of any county benefit that's been received directly by any county officials or anything like that, unless the commissioners or anyone else is aware of it.
The only other thing I would say is that they offer training to our law department.
So they've offered training, but they have offered no equipment or no funds of any kind to the departments, to the schools, or to anybody?
That is my knowledge, I don't know.
And I can't speak for what conversations have occurred between them directly with those other agencies. You'd have to ask that kind of thing. I'm not aware of anything that's happened. I know there's been discussions about, Peregrine specifically, but, some benefits to the fire department, has been discussed, I think, early on. I've heard rumors of that, but I was never a party to those discussions.
Could you elaborate for us what you've heard in regard to that, or what those conversations may have looked like?
Well, I wasn't a party to them. I just heard there's been, or I guess early on, Peregrine was sort of, when they were doing their town halls, like a lot of these developers, when they have a project like this, they come in and they say, well, we will give something, try to help the community by giving some benefit to the community. And at that time, I believe the discussion was trending towards benefiting the volunteer fire department in Harper in some capacity. I don't know what that capacity was going to be. And I don't know, I was never a party to those discussions, so I can't give you any details on that. That's just what I've heard.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else want to address that particular question?
See, other than I'm not aware of anything throughout the county that anybody received.
I mean, like concerning law enforcement, you have to ask the sheriff's office, and ask the sheriff on that. I'm not aware. I know they've had some, they had a they've had a couple training things in Harper, on their restaurant, so maybe a meal or something, but I didn't attend those, and so I can't tell you exactly what was given to those agencies that attended them. Anything else on that question? The first question on the as presented statement, that I said that based on, because that's the way that our resolution, I believe, was written. The initial resolution was as presented, and I think your question is what type of project would be acceptable?
Yes, sir.
I think we sort of follow up to that, and to me, it would have to be something that didn't present an fire or explosion or catastrophic risk. I don't know that I can ever get there. I mean, maybe technology will move in the future to a point where that would be possible, but as these are currently proposed, even if they meet all regulatory requirements to be installed and operated, I still think they present a risk that cannot be completely mitigated by whatever they do. So that's sort of my overarching, I guess, theory on where they would have to get before we would consider it not to be a threat. There would be some probably significant change in technology. Now that's specific to the battery component. The solar component, which I know this is sort of mixing these two together, but the solar component has more of an aesthetic issue, as far as ruining the views and the aesthetics of the county. So I don't know that I would ever be in favor of something of the scale that's proposed, just because of that reason.
Thank you very much for that, Judge.
What was the other question, number 4, of what steps have you taken?
Yes, sir. What substantial action has been taken by the commission since February 2nd of this year to prevent the projects?
It was February 2nd, was that the date that we adopted the first resolution?
Yes, sir. That was the February 2nd, 2025 resolution against the best facilities here in Gillespie County.
Well, I'm just going to try to go off the top of my head. We have engaged outside professionals. We've had multiple public meetings discussing, and Esther kind of brought this to the forefront of our attention many meetings ago. And so can tell you that between myself and the commissioners, county attorney, engineer, county fire marshal, that, we probably a day does not go by that we don't work on this and talk about it. We have elected to join 391 commission. We have, I don't know if we, let me just say that we have, the Peregrine project was the first time this is sort of a case of first impression for us. And so we had to learn a lot as we went through dealing with that. We have engaged outside, I'm trying not to give up too much of our strategy as far as combating these projects, but we have engaged outside professionals. We have had multiple meetings. I've had multiple meetings with members of the public that come in with concerns. We try to deal with those concerns. The county attorney's office has now sent a letter to the Peregrine project asking them to kind of give us some more affirmative action on their paperwork as far as what they're planning to do with documentation.
When was that letter sent out, Judge Jones?
Sarah, did you send that out
That was
last week?
Friday, maybe Friday was the 24th.
Thank you.
October 24th.
So with that being said, do you, as the commissioners of this county, do you feel confident in your capability to put a stop to these best facilities in our county?
I don't know that we can, but we're going to try to do so. We have a meeting scheduled on Friday to talk about some alternative approaches that I don't know if anybody else has tried yet, any other entity that has tried yet. If we just focus on the regulatory side and if they can meet all those regulatory requirements, then the project could potentially move forward. And so we have to take an alternative approach beyond just the regulatory side because that doesn't leave us much discretion. The regulatory side is essentially checking boxes. And so my concern is if we just focus on the regulatory side, that we may be left with somebody that can check off the boxes and the project will be able to move forward. Again, this is a new issue for everyone across the state. We may have to be the first to try some things that nobody else has tried before. We're talking about that this week, Friday, to see what we can come up with as far as potential solutions.
Thank you, Judge.
Judge, is there any interaction that y'all had with like Ken Paxton or Governor Abbott to get them involved and go talk to them? And I know Ken Paxton's up for election, and this is a good time to be rattling those chains, and I'm just wondering, is there any avenue there?
I think that will tie into what we're going to be discussing on Friday.
Okay.
Our close meeting. I think that I've got a plan that will draw their attention and that will require some, not require them, but sort of rattle the cages, so to speak. And I think at the same time we'll directly, after that, we'll directly communicate with them to see, I don't have a whole lot of faith. We can send letters, but I don't have a lot of faith in that, so I'm trying to come up with something else that will maybe require them to have to take
Get a meeting with him. I mean, I've called him and got on his schedule, but I'm waiting to talk to him, so that could be a long wait, but I'm really good. Have it out.
Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you for your time, but I just want to reiterate to you all, right, like, as citizens, we have y'all's backs. We want to help y'all however we can. We have so many brilliant people in our community. We have an entire team of engineers that have got, 400 years between the group of you guys over there? Like, I mean, these guys could build one of them for them if they needed to. We want to support you guys, we really do. Like, we're not here to combat with you guys, we want to help. And please, let us know how we can make this better for you guys and arm y'all with the teeth that you need to stop this thing.
Just to follow up on your question on when I was first notified, our meeting with the project manager was September 5th.
So the lease was signed in 2021, and then they didn't, and then you guys weren't made aware until just a little over a month ago?
I believe the first initial lease that they brought up was actually expired, and then they had to go sign the second. But that's, yes, that was the first that I was made aware of.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I just want to follow up on the last one. I just want to follow up on the last part of your comment where you mentioned about supporting, the community supporting. I understand that we're at an adversarial kind of point right now with the public.
Speak up.
And we are taking that, at least I'm taking it as motivation to continue to work on this and find answers and solutions for the county. So, having said that, I think that we will function better if we can all get, kind of in the same direction. And so, we're doing what we can on the government side to try to align with what the public wants. So I'm saying I appreciate the comment, and we're trying. It's just a tough spot, and we're trying to catch up. Do what we can. Steve Guest is the next comment or the next speaker.
Good morning. Steve Guest, Harper resident. Today's your day to get questions, I think. So, I have a few. Hopefully mine will be more easier and technical than the ones you just got. Ms. Neal, I want to thank you for the letter, RFP that you wrote out. That's very thorough. Most of my questions concern that. First question is, I'm assuming since the letter is in the public domain, that all responses that we hear from Heritage will also be public domain and will be available to us on the website. Is that true?
I have no objection to them being posted on the website. I'll have to bring that to the commissioner's court for them to make that determination on if they want to do that, but I don't see why.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's like a submittal to a county for review, so I assume it would be public domain.
Yes.
My only if they had something in there that was like copyrighted, plan,
Proprietary.
engineering or something, but the rest of it would be public. So, if there is something like that, we can always.
Well, typically they would ask not to have that published.
Right. No, it would be indicated on the file. But even then, we could publish the remainder.
Okay. Eric Archibald, is he, I'm not familiar with that person. Is he the commission's consultant that's been hired?
Yes, he's with Hazard Dynamics, and he's an engineer, and he's worked on some of these projects before as far as reviewing best facilities, compliance.
And he also has fire protection credentials. Okay, good. It's not stated in your letter, but can we assume that if there's not a proper response to all the specific questions you've asked, that will delay the project?
I can't answer that question because I'm not the person who makes that decision. I will bring the information that is, if we receive anything back, then I will take that back to the commissioner's court, and then they will have the option to decide how they want to proceed.
Okay,
So-
but, I mean, the information requested is all life safety and fire related, or floodplain issues related, so it seems like if you can't answer the questions or the documentation that you receive is inadequate, that would stop the project.
I completely agree with your logic, but I cannot definitively state that that's gonna happen because that's not my decision to make. But I will bring that to the commissioner's court, and I agree with you that that is a logical assumption. Yes.
Well, everyone in the room would
Yes.
agree with you there, so.
Correct, I think everybody.
All right, if we see, my impression from the comments we've had over the past couple of weeks is that there's no activity by Peregrine on the site other than demolition and grading. If we see construction activity that happens before or prior to a response to your request, who do we report it to? You?
You can report it to me. You can also report it to the fire marshal, who is Steve Alford. You can also potentially report it to the county engineer, which is Melissa Eckert. Any of those, you can report it to any of us. You can also report it to Commissioner Palmer, as that would be his precinct. Judge Jones, you can report it to anyone, and that information will get to the people that need to have that.
Okay, last question. Decommissioning. That, in my mind, is probably the most important piece of this project. If we can't stop it, we at least ought to be able to force Peregrine to clean up their mess when they decide to stop operations. And that's your intent, correct? With the decommissioning. I mean, the worst case scenario is they leave a bunch of containers with batteries in them and walk away.
Right.
It seems like there ought to be some teeth to forcing them to.
Well, as Judge Jones was making the comment earlier in response to some of the questions, all that we have right now is the regulatory provisions. So all that we can do is hold them accountable for what regulations actually say that they have to do, that are currently established and accepted by the State Fire Marshal's Office through the NFPA. So yes, if they're gonna have to comply with what the NFPA talks about for decommissioning. But all we can do is require them to comply with the regulations that are currently in play in the state legislature.
Yeah, I don't know how they decide they're gonna go bankrupt to leave. Be short of having them sponsor a bond ahead of time. But
I agree with you that there is a disconnect between what enforcing the regulatory provisions are and the power that the very limited power the county has in enforcing the regulatory provisions and the reality of what the actual consequences could be. There is a huge gap between those two things, and I completely agree with you. And that's what Judge Jones, I think, is getting at, looking at alternative means, because just focusing on enforcing the regulations is not necessarily going to have the effect that the county is looking for. But this letter goes to enforcing the regulations that are currently in the statutes in the state of Texas. So the point of the letter is saying, this is what you're required to do under the law. Please provide us the documentation that you have complied with this. And then we are bound by what the regulations state that we can do if they do not comply. But as Judge Jones said, the county is looking at alternative ways to address the situation as well.
okay, thank you. Good answers.
I will add that there is a new chapter in the Utilities Code, it's Chapter 303, that discusses financial assurances for decommissioning one of these projects, but it's not, it's really related to financial assurances between the developer and the landowner. There is some injunctive relief available for parties affected by that, so it's possible that if we ever get to that point, that there might be some ability of the county to get injunctive relief, but I think the intent of that is to have financial assurances bonding up front, so if the company does go bankrupt, there would be some funding to help decommission and clean up the project. Mr. Scudder? Bill Scudder?
Thank you, Judge Jones. I want to start out by saying amen to all the Harper people, Harper team, and what y'all have done to educate us to the dangers of these batteries. We very much appreciate it. You've educated the county, you've educated our team, you've educated a lot of the state. We appreciate it. Unfortunately, our project has an additional hazard in the Marshall Springs project, in the 800-acre PB farm. And it has its own, it comes up with its own string of hazards. Without diminishing the hazard of the batteries and the hazard of the PV panels, I'm here to talk solely about flooding on the Marshall Springs project. We got the map here. Marshall Springs project consists of 800 acres. The headlands of 4 streams. You got Marshall Creek going this way, you got Gaimenthaler going that way, you got Willow Creek going that way, I'm thinking that's Riley Creek going that way. It's at the headwaters, high elevation of all 4 of these streams. It just consists of batteries, very similar to what we've learned from the Harper people, but right here in their own writing, it's got 257,000 PV panels. They don't give us the size. Just when you zoom in on this thing is such a huge scale. When you zoom in on these panels, the little thin line is 3 feet wide. So we have no idea how big these panels are. The industry has them all different sizes, but for this conversation, let's consider it 257,000 sheets of plywood, that big. And in doing that, in my opinion, they're creating 560 acres of impervious cover that I feel like meets the definition in one of the few statutes we've got to help us with this, the Gillespie County Floodplain Ordinance. It has a very detailed definition of impervious cover. And obviously the roads meet it, the panels meet it, the tables that hold up the panels meet it. But by my definition, and this is where we'll probably differ from the developers, I feel like these little thin lines between the panels, that is going to be impervious cover. They're going to say that it's the grass strips that's going to help slow the water down. Not one of us in this room, I think including the commissioners, believe the grass is going to grow underneath these panels or between these panels. It's going to be hard, beaten caliche and Ocala soils, which meets the definition of impervious cover. I go into that detail because I arrive at the 560 acres by starting with the 800 acres, nibbling away and saying these areas will actually grow vegetation. Some of these strips here will. Maybe these areas here. But these big blocks of PV panels, along with the batteries and the roads, the water's going to run off it at an incredible rate of speed. And it's 3%, 5% gradient above those people, good people living on Country Creek and down Gaiman Lane and down Willow Creek. It's coming off that hill at a dangerous velocity. And that gets me to the point that our lovely developers, having known all that, in fact, you can put that in, thank you very much, having known all that, submitted with their plan the cover sheet, permits, and there it is right there in their own submittal. That our floodplain ordinance is not applicable to them. They're saying on paper, they sent them, they didn't know it was coming. They sent them right off the bat. I mean, if there was an engineer seal on that notional, they would be, if there was an engineer seal on this, it would be, someone would be going after their license. To propose that project and say the floodplain ordinance is not applicable to them, it means nothing they can do can be trusted. Anybody's going to go to it. That's about as disgusting as putting a battery next to a school. So the story gets better. I mean, the story gets more in life, gets better for us. Because on August 8th, Melissa, I found your email. I've never met you. I passed it around. She says it very well. I don't have a copy. But basically, these guys do have to abide by our ordinance. We have a tool in the toolbox across 2 projects and scores of hazards. We found one tool, and she states it very well, that because the impervious cover, the ordinance kicks in, and they have to guarantee our downstream hydrology remains just as it is or better than the pre-development conditions. So that's, to me, a very good leverage that the county has placed on these people. And when I found it, I kind of stopped. I didn't sign up to speak last week because that's so good. But now where we are, You go and put that down. Thank you very much. Just wanted to know, since August 9th or August 8th, what has been done? I'll give you all my questions. Does the developer know that he better abide by our ordinance? Has the county hired an engineer? Does the engineer know about the project? I understand he really can't, your engineer that you pick, he or she, can't evaluate their plan until we have their plan. But do y'all have an engineer on board that knows where the project is? And we can do preliminary things like agreeing between their engineer, the developer's engineer, our engineer, and the floodplain administrator. What is the 100-year event y'all are going to use? What's the claim intensity and duration y'all are going to use? Can we set those things up and have some actionable people on board to get ready for this plan? Because I'm concerned when the plan comes in, there are some green-leaning studies that my reading of them says the green industry doesn't have to follow the same detention procedures that the rest of the world does. That somehow the rain knows the difference, whether it's hitting the TV panel or an awning on a building. Those white papers, basically, they're talking about those strips between the panels and the area under the panels. I mean, I don't think we've ever let a developer take the area underneath the mobile home as we call the mobile home impervious cover. So I warn y'all, if those kind of junk engineering shows up, that those white papers are based on solar farms on flat ground, deep soils, with 100% vegetation. You read the footnotes of their study. We don't have any of that. So if this is our one sword we've got across two projects and scores of hazards, we got one sword on one hazard on one project. I want to make sure, all indications are y'all do a very good job with it, but I want to help out fighting junk engineering and maybe some junk agriculture at the end of the day. Because to do that project properly, it's going to look a lot different than what we held up. We're going to need hardened detention facilities with engineered head walls and a finite opening that allows only the water that would normally come off this property in its natural condition to come downstream for all of us. So we want to find out anything going on since August to help us get towards that.
So do you want to give the details on that?
Yes, so we met, I met with the developer and their engineer. They had brought on Kimley Horn to do their drainage study. So Kimley Horn is a very reputable company. They have a lot of combined experience. So I'm glad that they did choose a engineer with a lot of experience in hydrology and flood studies, drainage studies. So we met with them September 29th to kind of go over what we were looking for in that drainage study, but the plan that you held up is the only plan that I have, and I 100% agree that this, preliminary plan that they provided, there's not enough detail on it for us to say it's exactly this percent impervious cover. Kind of similar to you, I basically drew a box around the entirety of the solar panel and didn't give any credit to the, there's 2 feet between them, 1 foot between them, 10 feet, I don't know, because their drawing isn't, it's not, at a stage where we can tell those amount of details. So their first step is going to be to provide a, more specific plan of what they are proposing. That way we can go through more of the nitty-gritty details of, no, this 2 foot space between them, that's not going to give you credit for pervious cover, because it's still, whenever you've got a carport or something, exactly like you said, if the rain's blowing at an angle, it's maybe not always just that exact square footage that's causing the water to get caught by that structure or whatever it is. So to answer your question, we met September 29th. I'm waiting for a response from Kimley Horn.
the notes that we received during our initial meeting in September 5th, they anticipated a 2027 construction date, so I don't know that they're in a hurry to provide that information back to us. I know there's some other dates that have been thrown around that they would want to be started by, but yes, we will review that, kind of the scope of that drainage study in more detail once we have a better construction plan. And we do have a couple of on-call consulting engineers as well as civil engineers, so I'll be reviewing that study as well as one of our consulting engineers.
Do we know what the 100-year event would be used? Just layman's terms, and some, the 100-year event is a file, but in rainfall intensity and duration, do we have what the 100-year event would be?
I do not. We typically use the BLE data, which shows that the 100-year event doesn't quite stretch to this property. But we'll look up some local data. I'll probably get together with our consulting engineer to come up kind of with some more exact terms that we want included in that study.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Thank you very much. And then what, going forward from there, something I hit on 2 weeks ago. If they address all the regulatory, and I fully support what you were saying about regulatory versus other ways, but the regulatory battle is the only battle we have to fight now. Keep your efforts going outside the regulatory. But in the regulatory world, once the drainage, and if we can hopefully get the NFPA and a whole bunch of other design features, this project's going to look a lot different than it looks now. I mean, just detention ponds alone are going to change their PV. It's going to change their income stream because there's going to be less PV panels. It's going to increase their cost. We used to have a saying in civil construction when something just as simple as a hole. We'd say, you don't start digging a hole until you know how you're going to finish it. This project is a lot more technical than a hole in the ground. So I'm concerned that we got century oaks, heritage oaks up there. We got some, I think the fluids have been a good steward of the soil, so it looks like it's got beautiful hill country soils up there. I don't want those forever altered and then have them figure out their cost and their loss of income stream and have all that destroyed. I don't want them to start a project until they know how they're going to finish it. And I think the county should have some kind of say-so. We talked about injunctions. We really need to, we owe it to the developer for them to know what their project's going to look like and what the cost is going to be. And we owe it to those century oaks before they get taken out. That they don't get taken out and they're just left for nothing. So I'd like the county to look into some way to stop clearing and grading. Clearing of the trees and grading of the soil are both catastrophic to that area. I'd like just some way for it to stop that until they have all the necessary approvals. And then in closing, again, I applaud the one tool, in this case, it's a sword. It's a sword that's being used to defend us against flooding, which is one hazard on one project. And I ask y'all to look for more tools in the toolbox so that all the hazards are addressed and everybody on both projects, including the Harper project, are protected from developments like this. Thank you.
Mr. Baker?
Good morning, David Baker. My wife and I live on Country Creek Lane. First, wanted to just thank you all. Been very lenient with the rules of order and allowing people really get a lot of comments and everything in. I think that shows how much you're interested in hearing what everybody has to say. So appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Won't reiterate my comments from last meeting as to why all the reasons to be opposed to the Marshall Springs solar farm and battery storage facility. I just wanted to reiterate my opposition and a lot of other people's opposition to the project. Gillespie County is just the wrong location for this type of project. I was very glad to hear what Judge Jones had to say earlier. What I was going to say was I wanted to plead with our elected officials to pursue every avenue possible to stop this project. I know that it's, these type of projects are new, especially to our county, unprecedented, haven't had to fight this before, but it is going to require unprecedented actions to stop. And also that timing of actions, I think, is a factor also, because I feel they're on a timeline to meet subsidies. So anyway, and don't want to be a person who just sits here and demands things. If there's anything I or others can do as regular citizens, please enlist us. We're here to help also. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Bruce?
I yield my time to ask you.
Either Broussard.
Hello, my name is Ada Broussard. I live about 10 miles down the road from the proposed BESS facility, right on the border between Doss and Harper. Usually this is around 10 miles downwind of the proposed facility. Like a lot of folks in our community, I've heard rumblings of this facility for over a year now, but embarrassingly, I didn't really understand what a lithium battery storage facility was until recently. The more I learn, the more horrified, honestly, I am. And so I'm here simply today to declare my opposition. I work full-time in agricultural marketing, and I'm a first-time mother to a son who's 1.5 years. So my head has been down, and I know that there are others in the community like me, don't have the luxury of time, the resources to come to a commissioner meeting on a Tuesday, or to stay up at night researching this facility. And so I'm here to say that if something goes wrong at this facility, it's not just a headline, it is our children, it is our community, it's our groundwater. It's the same groundwater that I bathe my child with, that I cook my family dinner with, that I grow my vegetables with. I understand the limitations of your position, of the current regulations. I'm hearing and I'm learning that this is a new fight for the county. I'm here quite simply to urge you to stay aggressive. Please get creative. It sounds like you guys are trying to. Please continue. And yeah, that's it. That's all I gotta say. Please stay aggressive.
Michael Belsick. Sorry, Michael Belsick.
Hello, my name is Michael Belsick. I live out of my little city area, so I'm local. I want to state up front that I totally oppose all battery energy storage systems. The solar panel farms themselves are mainly, for me, just an eyesore. But it's the tons and tons of battery acids on these sites that are basically a health and environmental problem waiting to happen. Because there's a history of accidents where a fire starts, acid leaks the ground, firefighters are hurt. It's just a problem. I just don't understand the need for them or the desire for them. You know, these solar panels do not create energy at night. And even if there's a cloud cover, power is reduced. And I will also say that when solar panels are covered by snow, you don't get any energy for those that might be concerned about, oh, we need them for the next power outage, like Snowmageddon that happened. It's not going to solve that problem at all. All it is a risk. Now, the two observations. One, when, let's say a new school, a new hospital, or even a new store has purchased property and haven't started building yet, what do we all see? Sign, coming here soon. We haven't seen any of that. So why are they hiding it? Information is coming out very slowly, and I think that's by design. And as the more I listen to all this, my first impression is must be a lot of money behind it. I don't understand that, but maybe it's government subsidies, but there's some money forcing this, otherwise it wouldn't be such a pervasive across-the-board panel. And that makes me even more concerned. With that, I will end with, and thank you very much for the time.
Scott, I'm sorry, I can't read the last name. Scott? Strange? Okay. Scott Strange Senior.
Strange, is it weird? That's what I always tell people. I'll keep my comments brief. I'm here to make a statement on my behalf as a private citizen here. When I started researching, it's not just been my research, I've had partners with this. We started researching this. I want to compare this to, kind of open your eyes to something, that any combustible, gasoline, gunpowder, black powder, dynamite, whatever, takes an exterior source of ignition to make it do what it's got to do. These batteries don't need anything. They have everything in them they need to cook off. All it takes is not to be properly sustained and maintained. What happens next time we have an ice storm? Where I'm at, we were without power for 9 to 10 days. Some of you were without power for 3 to 4 weeks. What's going to happen when those batteries start cooking off? The Moss Fire in California, they're finding particulates of that fire 200 miles away. They're promoting 4 facilities in Gillespie County alone. If one facility goes up, what would that affect? This county in whole, and the contiguous counties around us, probably 2 or 3 counties deep, a 200-mile perimeter potential for the prevailing winds that we have out there. And one thing I've learned in life is that we all have a legacy that we leave. And this is my question to everyone here in the committee. I try to help my neighbors. I try to help my community. I look after the animals that we have. And by the way, one of the things that gives off hydrofluoride mixed with water calls hydrochloric acid. What's in our lungs? What are our bodies doing? If you breathe it, it's no good. Our legacy, I want our legacy to be we stood on the right side of things. So I'm asking the committee and everyone here, what's your legacy going to look like when this is all said and done? Thank you.
Scott, you said there were 4 battery facilities?
One off of 16, Marshall Springs, Harper, and Willow City.
Yeah, I'm only aware of 2, so I'm not sure where the 4 number comes from. So
Well, that's what I'm understanding.
Marshall Springs and Willow City, I think, are referred to commonly together.
Mr. Nash, David Nash.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank the court and any third parties for the RFI that went out recently. And I want to talk through that a little bit. There's about 3 parts of that. There are like 3 branches of what you have a hazard mitigation analysis performed. So we already talked about the floodplain. That's a good one. The second part would be the portion that deals with NFPA 69. Now that is basically what that is it ensures that they have these ventilation panels that release when the off gases start accumulating to prevent the explosion. And so this NFPA 69 has been around since 1969, and it's also in its 12th edition. So the first 3 editions were done in a 4-year span. Now, NFP 855, the first 3 editions are going to be done when they issue the 2026 in a 6-year span. So you can understand how emerging technologies and standards try to keep up with it. Yeah. So anyway, the NFPA 69 deals with the ventilation, like I said. But when you drill down from HMA, you start talking about safety instrument systems. Then again, when you drill down from that, you have what's called safety integrity levels. And so what that is, there's a rating 1 through 4, 4 being nuclear basically, and 1 being like a flashbulb, or maybe changing the oil in your tire, where you would basically do nothing or run to failure, that kind of deal. So obviously these are kind of in between. I normally worked on 3s, and anyway, that gets into things that will expand your ability to do more than just what the NFPA states, and that's where it's important. Okay, I can talk more about that, but I'll be brief so everybody can talk. And the next thing about the commissioning, that's also very important because they have lots of incidents during commissioning, and there's a lot of checks and balances you do during commissioning. I won't go through all that, but this does open up and make them aware that we are going to be expecting those 3 branches to be expanded in their HMA. And that's kind of beyond all the minimum standard stuff. That's good enough.
I'll email you to follow up because some of the technical stuff, it's easier if I can read it in addition just to hearing about it. So I'll send you an email if you can maybe give us some written kind of synopsis of what you said and help us just for understanding. Thank you. Ms. Schneider?
We'll let her finish.
I apologize. I did try to turn it off before.
It's like a battery, it doesn't go out on its own.
I think there's a gremlin in there.
Let me first say, Sarah, thank you for sending the letter out on Friday. That's really important. I hate to beat a dead horse. I think we made the point that construction had taken place at the Peregrine site in June. And because of our litigation, I have invoices totaling more than $200,000 of construction that was done in the month of June. And I think it would be nice for the court to apologize to the people who brought this to your attention that construction had been done. We now have that physical proof, and our engineer didn't bother to go. Okay, we have come, we've tried to be very nice, we've had countless meetings, and the adversarial role that has occurred is because we have brought you information on the NF 855, 69, 1142, 1, the electrical code, all of these different things, OSHA, for over 11 months. And we've been ignored, quite honestly, we've been ignored. And then to have this happen, that we brought you the fact that construction had been done, and you insisted that it hadn't. But moving on, I will leave these with you so you can see, okay? Mentioning 4, I believe there's 3 now facilities in this latest one. We don't have, Sarah and I briefly talked about it the other day, that there is a 4th one, or a 3rd one in town. So you all don't have any information on that? Okay, I
heard it was off Live Oak. I think that there's a substation in there, or there is one there.
There's a substation there, yeah. It's very close. It's very close to the hospital. Okay, so we're going to have a similar issue that we have in the jail, right? With an emergency threat of one of these facilities going into thermal runaway, and now we have a hospital close by. You know, we can't have an HVAC system in the prison or in the hospital that uses Freon that's not enclosed. So why are we gonna allow something like this to be put, I mean, it's bad enough it's going next to our school, and it's bad enough that it's at the headwaters of the Pedernales, but now we've got another one. And this is why it is so important that you all take this stand to fight this. But I had given Commissioner Cromer a heads up. I'm gonna move to the next topic. So back, the date was actually May 23rd. Commissioner Cromer and I had a phone call with a company called Jensen Hughes. And I had gone through the fire services department of Jensen Hughes out of Fort Worth and arranged for a phone call, a conversation, to see how we stop this going a different direction as opposed to saying we want to stop this battery facility. So Commissioner Cromer, I don't know where you were at that time, but we were not together, and it was probably a good thing because some of the text messages that Commissioner Cromer sent me during that conversation were quite humorous, and it probably wouldn't have gone over very well, and I'll spare you from saying or repeating what you wrote. But during that conversation, Justin Milne, who is the design engineer for Jensen Hughes, clearly didn't get the memo that we were calling to find out how we stop this facility. And in that conversation, he said that I brought up the point that there are no employees on these facilities. And he said, oh, that's done for safety reasons. It's too dangerous. We limit the exposure of employees on those facilities because they are too dangerous. And in that same process, he also said they all explode. We've been told by all of these companies, specifically Peregrine, oh, they catch on fire, but they don't explode. They don't all explode. Yes, they all explode. And that's when we get the release of hydrogen cyanide, hydrogen fluoride, all of these lovely chemicals that no hazmat team can even address because there is not a respirator filter for those chemicals, okay? So I just want you to, Commissioner Cromer, if you will humor us, tell your version of that story, and here's why. The citizens in Harper are over at $100,000 in legal fees. And to depose Justin Milne, the design engineer, would cost us probably 10 grand. To fly him out, depose him. So we can use your testimony today about that discussion in our court records. So could you kindly please reiterate what you recall from that conversation?
The three-way conversation with you and I.
And Milne and Leonard.
So basically, I think what my reference to this should be is that we actually talked about, hiring this consultant firm. I think some of the dangers of hiring some of these firms are they work for some of these big companies as well. And so we were actually just interviewing them, and he was encouraging me and myself and Esther how safe it was to be at that facility if there was a fire. I said, would you be comfortable standing in front of the school if there was a fire there? He said, oh, yeah, everything's fine. He said, I can prove you how safe it is. And I can't remember if myself or Esther, we made a comment. You do understand we're not trying to create a safe facility here. We're trying not to have a facility here. And then he started backpedaling. And I think my comment, if I can humor the court, my comment was, look at this mother trucker, he's backpedaling like crazy.
Like a bicycle.
And all of a sudden now his story changed. Oh no, this isn't safe, it's not safe. And so I said, so would you let your kid go to school there? Because I have family there, my wife's there, my child, my grandkids will be there. And I said, would you have your wife in that school? He said, absolutely not. So he changed his story. So sometimes you gotta be cautious of when you engage that you gotta figure out where the engagement, what their intent is.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate that. I do have one more question for you, Commissioner Cromer, and it goes back to where the information on the fire truck, the brush truck, and the fire station that was brought up in November. Can you tell us who told you that and what the particulars were?
So basically, the very first conversation I had with Paragon, and I didn't know who Paragon was, I didn't know what they were, I didn't know nothing about it. and they came up and asked me what the needs of our community are. And I said, you know, if you go around our community, you ask people, the head Little League say, oh, we need a baseball field, this community member is gonna want a new cover for the arena, this is one. And I said, if everybody's being truthful and honest, the most important thing in our community is better EMS coverage. And it doesn't matter, I wasn't saying, hey, we need you to give us coverage. I said, Pat, if everybody's speaking from their heart, and the one issue we have in our outside of rural Gillespie County, no matter which end of the county you are in, better fire EMS coverage. We have great volunteers, but we need more coverage out in the community. I don't know if that comment was misconstrued, that I was saying we needed a fire truck. I know our fire chief has talked to Paragon in the initial conversation. I haven't talked to him anymore. That was a request that Paragon asked what he needed in the fire department, and it was a fire truck. He said, we can use a fire truck, we can use a new facility. And I don't know if that was a bargaining chip for our fire chief. I don't think it was. It was a conversation that was being had that he asked what our community needed, and him being the fire chief, he's gonna be an advocate for things for his fire department. And so if it was misconstrued that I was volunteering to sell out for a fire truck, I wanted to assure you that I was not, because I live 3/4 of a mile from the facility. I have kids in school, I have a wife there, so I'm not, and I've said it on lots of news channels that we don't want you here. I mean, 100%, I'm 100% opposed to it.
Okay, but let's make sure we have the record straight. When I called you in January after the Moss Landing fire, I called you to talk about it, and you said, hey, this is great. We're gonna get a new brush truck and a new fire station. You said that. You said that to me, and I told you at that time, over my dead body, you will.
Well, I don't verify, I don't think I've talked to Paragon since those.
But the point is, there is a perception in the community that, and there has been a lot of money thrown around. Rusty King, whose house is right next door to this facility, was offered $10,000 to sign a 20-year agreement, I believe, not to question this. I mean, they were throwing around a lot of money, okay? The Harper ISD school was asking for an HVAC system, okay? Now, my problem is there's a $20,000 donation made to the Harper Police Department, the ISD Police Department. It's anonymous. Who gave that money? And that was given in May of 25. We don't know. They're not saying it. I'm sure Bonnie Stewart, who's the superintendent, probably knows. But there's also new air handlers at the school to the tune of $17,000. Who paid for that? We have not gotten those answers. So we do know they have thrown around a lot of money. And this is very disconcerting, obviously. So that's why a lot of these questions have been asked. We just want answers. And you've been gracious enough to say today that you are not aware, so we do appreciate that. I think that's all I have. But if one of you could put on the website, maybe Judge Jones, about the city project that is being discussed. I mean, the fact of the matter is, any one of these projects will ruin our entire county. And an evacuation order would clear the entire county, plus damage our water, our schools, all of these critical infrastructure, kill people. And we do need to fight with everything we have to stop this. Thank you.
I have a meeting scheduled with the city manager today at 1:30, so as soon as we're done with our meeting, I'll get started on that, getting more information out about the city.
Thank you.
Live
That would be great.
Item number 4. Mr. Wheeler, is that you? Can you speak? Mr. Wheeler, Mike Wheeler?
Everyone, thank you, Commissioner, Commissioners and Judge. It's very nice to be able to speak. I'm Mike Wheeler from Bernie, Texas. I am from Kendall County. We are struggling with the same problem. You maybe seen me here last week, but I think I'd like to just spend 2 minutes giving you an idea of why these are happening. I've done a lot of research on why. The current wholesale price of megawatt energy right now is about $26 per megawatt hour. The wind and solar produce around $35 to $40. It costs them $35 to $40. So they're losing that money, right? That the wholesale price is 26, the cost is 35 to 40. But the U.S. government is providing these tax incentives that's making up for that, right? So you would think other stuff would move in to maybe as the market, a free market would allow other energy sources to move in. The problem is that it costs natural gas about $50 to $70. So, and they're not getting any tax incentives at all. The nuclear costs about 90 to 100. So they're not getting any tax incentives whatsoever either. So when you start thinking about our need for electricity, well, the only source that makes any sense at all financially are these wind and solar plants. So that's why we're seeing this just drastic increase in wind and solar. So what happens when we see this drastic increase in wind and solar? This drastic increase in battery storage. That's why this is happening. It doesn't fix anything for us all, but I think it's just important to understand why this is happening. It maybe gives us an idea of what we can, what's ahead of us. What do we have to tackle? And that's why this has to be addressed a lot more on a national level as well. We have to do everything we can locally to delay and fight these, but we also have to do something nationally as well to reverse this trend. I also want to just throw out there that I think, I've started a thing in Kendall, and I think we're going to move it over to Kerr, and I hope we can include Gillespie. We're going to start trying to raise funds for a legal team to go in and start looking into this and throwing in some injunctions. Van Zandt has been done pretty well with it. I don't know if anybody's been following that at all, but they've got some traction there. And I just feel like if we raise a few bucks, we can get a lawyer. You can start delaying these projects based on health and safety. Is there anything more health and safety that scares you more than the battery storage is basically directly in the line where the wildfires were? That to me is enough to get an injunction right there. So I would just love to come and see me. We're talking about it in Kendall. We started talking about it in Kendall about raising money. And I applaud you for being on the 391. I think if you please go to those meetings, I think you're going to find them very frustrating. And it has nothing to do with the people who are on the 391 at all. They're trying their hardest. It's just they're meeting roadblocks. And so we're going to have to continue. That's one tool in the pocket. Legal is another tool in the pocket. We just need to keep fighting all together as a team. And I think we can delay this. I feel confident we can do it. Thank you, Mike Wheeler. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
David Nash, Precinct 2. Since you mentioned the city manager meeting, I'm hoping you have talk about the fire code being 2016.
Okay, I can mention that too.
You got that one on there? Okay, good.
Did anyone else sign up to speak on item number 4? I don't have anyone else on the list. Just making sure I didn't miss anyone. Sure.
And I do want to clarify, so the work that happened on the Harper site for the Peregrine happened prior to our adoption of the 2025 floodplain ordinance. So the governing document at the time was our 2001 floodplain ordinance, which does not regulate construction outside of the floodplain. So kind of regardless, I know we had this back and forth on what is construction, what had taken place on the site prior to the update in the ordinance was tree clearing and demo of the house, and since that was all outside of the floodplain, it would not have been covered under the 2001 floodplain ordinance.
May I make a comment, please? We had meetings with you back in March, February, talking about the floodplain. You had promised to call FEMA. You had promised to look at this, and you inadvertently, on your own or by someone telling you not to do that. And you made the personal choice to to say the part where they are going to build is not in the floodplain. That was not your call to make.
So their schematic shows that the limits of disturbance were outside the floodplain, and I did confirm with FEMA, the Texas Water Development Board, and our consulting engineer that under the 2001 ordinance, there was not a permit that would have been required since the work's outside of the floodplain. Our 2001 ordinance does allow for if base flood elevations are established by any kind of federal or state source, including the BLE viewer, that those base flood elevations can be used. So based on that data, the work was outside of the floodplain.
And also based on TCEQ, they required a SWIP.
Yes, and they have that approved by TCEQ and they're in good standing with TCEQ.
Yes, but they never supplied it to the county. And that is part of the requirement
Which requirement?
on TCEQ, that it be given to the local jurisdiction and be signed off on. And you did not do that. Do you have that document?
No, that I don't
No,
believe that
they
that's
did
a
not-
requirement
they did not
for a
give it to
county
you.
that's not an MS form.
I think we're all going to disagree. I mean, we have the same disagreement on what is construction based on TCEQ versus the county.
You're welcome to, if you want to send me what section of the floodplain ordinance you believe they're in violation of, I'd be happy to look at that.
Well, what you told us in one meeting and what you're saying now are two different things.
We move to item number 5 now, which is considering adoption of a resolution related to the development and construction. This is for the Marshall Springs Solar and Battery Project. Sarah, have you heard back?
I was just checking that now.
We do have two people that have signed up to make public comments on this. I know Mr. Nash has got some specific comments related to the content, but the first speaker is Gene Weber.
My comments fit more in 4 than 5.
Okay. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I'm Jean Weber, and it was my phone that went off. I apologize. My husband and my property are on Country Creek. It adjoins the acreage leased for the Marshall Springs Solar Farm and lithium battery storage. In fact, it's out our front door. I see the fence from my kitchen window. And I guess since I only found out about this about a month ago, my question was, how can this happen without landowners knowing what's going to happen next door to them, even though we are in a rural community? It's a very residential community, and it's a very natural, scenic area of the country. Considering the proposal, I had some things that came to mind. 800 acres of trees and vegetation will be bulldozed. Beautiful live oaks, maybe some post oaks, cedars. I guess we wouldn't care so much about them, but on our land we care about the cedar, even though because of the oak wilt thing. I mean, we need something to hold the little bit of soil that we have. I had a hard time visualizing 800 or 830 acres of solar panels. And so someone had said, well, that's about, an acre is about the size of a football field. So visualize in your mind 800 football fields of these panels. What does that do to our drainage system and local climate? And that's already been addressed, and I won't go into that really. But this land is not flat. I see it out my windows. It's not flat. It's a very hilly area with a lot of valleys. I don't know, you could probably call them canyons even. When we get heavy rains, the water flows across our property. It flows from that acreage that's been leased. To date, we don't have oak wilt, as I said, but with destruction of these countless trees, who knows? And Can this be done without permits? Can they bulldoze our land, that land, without permits? Can someone answer that?
Marshall Springs one's a little different because of the drainage issue with the solar panels and so.
Right, so before any construction starts, they would have a permit that's required based off the 2025 flood ordinance. For land clearing, tree removal, the county does not issue permits for that. So just as any rancher or any homeowner, property owner could, they are able to go and remove trees. They would have to have their permit from TCEQ for any kind of land disturbing activity, but land clearing is not covered by a county permit.
So I can wake up one morning and hear the bulldozers going.
They would have to have their permit, their SWIP permit from TCEQ before they commence land clearing, but that's a permit that's provided by TCEQ from the state at the state level, and not necessarily by the county.
I'm also concerned.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I think that's the most conservative interpretation of the ordinance and our regulatory ability, but based on comments we've had from others concerning the concerns about the property essentially being removed of all vegetation, I'm going to propose that we take a more aggressive approach and notify them and try to get in front of this issue and let them know that we expect them, like was mentioned, to make sure they can actually finish it before they start, so we don't have this kind of issue where something is site's cleared and then something comes up and now you're looking at essentially buried property. So I'm just trying to kind of qualify the answer. That Melissa gave you the technical, the conservative answer as far as what our ordinance says, but that doesn't mean we can't push a little bit beyond that to try to alleviate your concern.
Yes, and from TCEQ rules, I believe it's after either 14 or 21 days if the project stops. So if there is some sort of a start then delay, then they do have to go and reestablish permanent vegetation. So they would have to go and replant grasses and stuff like that to prevent erosion. So I know that doesn't make you feel
No,
better.
once they're gone, they're gone. It takes a long time to regrow that. Also, I'm concerned about our water supply. As someone mentioned before, we drink our water. We cook with it. We bathe in it. And I venture to guess that most of the people around that whole area do the same thing. I'm also concerned because you're aware of the large KOA resort area that's being built on Palo Alto Creek there, and the water usage that's going to happen there, not to mention the sewage. I don't know what happens to that, but that's a concern for me, is because I've always tried to conserve water where we live, but because I keep hearing about the aquifer, and I'm concerned. And so I would hope that we would be concerned too. I'm also concerned about any air pollutants that drift across our land and affect our health. I'm imagining that the wind and rainstorms and aging panels would certainly contribute to that. And what about the displaced wild animals? With their habitat gone, where will they go? That's a big area, a big, big area. And there's lots of wildlife there. We even have jackrabbits. And we've already heard a lot about who's going to put out the battery fires. Our volunteer fire department doesn't have the manpower, equipment, and the knowledge to deal with such. And I don't know how quickly you can learn all of that. I've tried to become knowledgeable about this. It's not easy. Not easy at all. Remember the crabapple fire that was right behind of us? We had to evacuate. I might say that that was a mighty effort by the firefighters involved, but this type of fire would be a totally different animal. Imagine the pollutants that would be drifting over our homes. So I'm asking, please help Gillespie County and Texas, maybe even the United States, maintain the integrity of land ownership. I saw an outline online map of Texas that had these facilities dotted on the state of Texas. If you're Google solar farms in Texas or something like that, and you'll see a map. It's scary, almost.
3,000 proposed.
Okay. Are we being bought out by foreign entities?
Yes, absolutely.
You know, Harper, you're
Yeah,
doing
right
that.
there.
So as a native Texan, I urge you to do all in your power, and we need to all step up there to stop these local attempts so that we won't be getting these surprise bits of information, you know, like I had not heard of the Live Oak development, you know, as a possibility. So I don't know, is there a confidentiality clause or something that keeps us from knowing this? I mean, because I understand that the lease was signed back in 2021. So, you know, here we are in 2025 to deal with this. So that's my comments as a landowner.
Mr. Nash? We're talking about item number 5 now, the resolution. Want to make a couple comments?
Speak.
Well, I mean,
Get everybody to speak.
So we have a draft resolution that's on the agenda for consideration today that's related to the Marshall Springs Solar Farm and Battery Energy Storage Project. And it is the resolution would require documentation. It's nearly identical to the Harper resolution concerning the battery portion of the project. And then there's some additional information that's being requested and noted in this resolution related to the solar farm portion of that project. We have submitted this to our Dr. Archibald. We have not received that commentary yet. I believe that's and so it's sort of still in draft form. I did send a copy to Mr. Nash. I know he was interested in reviewing it, and I know he's got a few comments and suggestions for possible revisions. I put a stack of copies on the table. If anybody didn't get one and wants one, I can have more copies made. Does anyone need a copy now and did not get one? Okay. All right, Mr. Nash, let me give us your feedback and comments, please.
Here's copies for everybody. And one for the clerk. Okay, my name's David Nash, Precinct 2. Thank you for sending the draft. Really enjoyed reading it. I really like it for the most part. I have two, I guess what we call it is amendment to the draft. Is that proper?
That's fine.
So I have like 2 amendments, because some of them are similar. So I think we can deal with it. And since you're waiting for the third party, that would be something you would consider, I guess, because if you're going to wait for their comments, then probably wouldn't try to adopt that right now. So anyway, it's up to y'all. But anyway, the first amendment would be related to, on page 1, the 4th whereas, and these are highlighted on their version. So I didn't make copies of my amendments, but I'm trying to at least tell y'all where I'm at in the document. And then on page 2, the second whereas, I propose to strike both of those. The first one, it's really handled by 2 other clauses. One of them's, I believe, whereas, and the other one's one of the first. Well, anyway, there's 2 clauses that take care of that. Okay, so I think that's redundant, and plus it's also in the category where it really doesn't relate to code, and I'm trying to get this to where it's all about codes and floodplain. So that's the first amendment, just to do that. The second thing I was striking, also, this was something I had a copy of to another county, because it's kind of generic in nature for all counties. They wanted to go this path, and since it's really not code, I thought we'd just strike that too, because we already have a resolution. I believe Esther did that one to basically say that, we're against it. That would have been a good one to add to that, but anyway. So that's the first amendment, just striking those two. Second amendment, there's a lot of, let's see, they call it Ampere Energy USA. We all know that's the company that's kind of behind all this, at least the one that we think is behind. But when you look at the September GIS report, ERCOT, they specifically call the solar plant one thing and the desk plant another. So they call the solar plant Marshall Springs Solar Project, the battery plant Marshall Springs Energy, that's it, LLCs. And so I think it's important that we specify what ERCOT says, because that's two separate entities. And if it ever gets to legal or anything, it would be like, well, Ampere is like, well, we're not them. And those are the two companies that they're to sacrifice if something goes wrong. It's kind of like whack-a-mole. They got all these LLCs, and Ampere's got the hammer. So it's just like, it's happening all over the place, but it's important, I think, from a legal standpoint, that you do exactly what ERCOT specifies that entity on that report. So I marked it up accordingly. I may have made a mistake here or there, but basically I changed the terminology from Ampere to those two entities. And that's where all the other markups are, all the way through the document. And those are the two amendments, or to at least be considered for the draft.
You have any questions for Mr. Nash? Mr. Nash did email me his comments early, 2:30 in the morning. But I reviewed them this morning. I think that I think there's merit in everything that you're recommending. I don't have any objections. We do need to make sure that we have the entities named correctly, and not just the global name. And there's two entities, one for both, I guess, both sides of this proposed project. So.
I would suspect the third party would want to add the same kind of things that were added to the RFI. So that's what I would expect them to at least throw that out there.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Nash.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Wait and receive comments from Dr. Archibald for a final version. I would propose a special meeting as soon as we can get this ready to.
That'd be not only the
The earliest we can meet would be Monday, the 3rd, based on notice requirements. Are you all available on that day for a meeting to consider this resolution?
Judge, since we haven't heard back from you, do you want me to inquire on the timeline?
Yes. That'd be beneficial.
I don't know if we'll hear an answer back by
Okay.
this morning, but as soon as I
And I guess if you hear back from him and he consents to it as drafted, we can take action on it still today. Okay. Any other discussion on item number 5? proposed resolution.
It's something I want to thank the gentleman who met with yesterday and then today, Mr. Nash, and thank all very much for taking the time and getting through it. Appreciate it.
Okay, so we will, right now, we're not going to take any action on item number 5. If we have any input from the outside consultant before the end of the meeting, we'll revisit the item. If not, we will having a special meeting on Monday to consider adoption of the resolution. Everybody agree with that? All right, I believe that concludes our battery solar discussion items for today. If y'all want to leave the meeting, then we'll take a 5-minute recess if y'all want to take that. You're welcome to stay. It's a public meeting, but if you don't have any other items of concern that you want to listen to,
The website looks great. I just went on there. Yeah.
It's still a work in progress.
Sure. I'm just glad it's there. Literally last week I was like, where is the website? Well, no, I'm sure. I mean, it's like, yeah.
Take 5 minutes. This is going to be like an hour or 2.